Now that the new deck platform was all complete, it was time to look at finishing things up with some steps and some railings. These full width steps at the short end of the deck kind of died out into the ground because of the slope there. Otherwise, they're fairly unremarkable. And at the other end of the deck, I built this 4-foot wide set of steps leading down to the remnants of the concrete platform and towards the dock. I got a new load of materials ready for the railings, so it was time to get to work. A deck railing has to start with the support posts, so I started at this corner and notched out the decking so that I could fit the post right in there. I secured that through the rim joist with long lag bolts and left it over tall so that I could cut it to final height later. Once I had the first post in, I repeated the process all the way around the deck at the proper intervals and installed top and bottom railings at the height desired. And I chose these distances based on the length of the balusters that I had so that I could install balusters and without cutting them at all. This little end corner where it returns back to the house is something I'll have to finish off later with another post. I didn't do so well at filming the installation of these parts of the deck, but once I got through to the stage you see here, I went back and cut off all the posts at the proper height, even with that top rail, and then I installed a 1x6 cap rail over the top, mitered at all the corners. Installing balusters is just a lot of repetition. I went with a 3.5-inch spacer between them and worked from each edge towards the center. And I could hide a small inconsistency in the spacing along that center post. I installed each baluster with a screw at the top and bottom into the rails. Wasn't a bad job, but working on the slope definitely made it a little challenging, especially at this end. As I stood there, I wanted to slip down the slope, and getting that top screw in was kind of at the extent of my reach, which didn't make it any easier. Otherwise, there's really nothing to installing these. Make sure the first one's plumb, use a good spacer, and away you go. Come on, you can do it. Ugh. God, what a reach. I found it handy to mark and pre-drill the screw holes on these gangs of balusters before I brought them over for installation, so that way I'd have 8 or 10 of them at a time ready to go. Let's take a little walk over this finished deck. Nice peaceful view. A couple steps up this end. They kind of die into the ground there. It's about 26 feet along the length of this deck. This section here I didn't put a railing on because it's very comfortable height to just sit on the deck and look out at the view. And it's not high enough to require a railing. It would have been nice not to put a railing on any of the deck, but it's just too high off the ground not to have a railing. It didn't feel safe. So this railing doesn't really impede the view that much. I was a little worried that it would be right in the way of the view. And obviously it's there, but we don't find that it's a problem. When I sit in the chair, I can look right over the top of the rail. My wife's just a little bit shorter and has a little more trouble, but she can still see over this railing. But it kind of adds a nice finishing touch to the deck visually as well as for safety purposes. I mean, this side here is about 3 feet off the ground. That would hurt if you fell off it. Plus, there's the bank towards the water. If you were to slip off the deck, then it's an even longer way down from there. Nice straight access down to the dock off these other stairs. So that's real nice. But yeah, it just makes a nice finished aspect to the deck. It looks good. It's very comfortable and sturdy to lean on and contemplate the view and your future. Makes it feel very cozy to sit there. It feels like a big deck, but once we got these chairs and other furniture on there, it felt a lot smaller in a real hurry. But it's a very nice place to hang out and take in nature around us. To finish off the bottom part of the deck, I went with white vinyl lattice. Every piece required quite a lot of measurements to get the height right because of the ground contours and to clear the railing posts. So after I got all those measurements, I just cut out each piece and installed them as screws, one piece at a time. The lattice was really floppy to work with. Finally, I finished up the cut around one of the posts, and I was getting ready to test fit this piece. Looks like a good fit, nice and tight along the ground the whole way. Let's screw it in place. Next verse, same as the first. Measure, 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 cut, cut, cut. I was pretty happy with how the lattice turned out. Fits the ground well. I filled in under the stairs, and all the corners matched up pretty well, considering it was kind of floppy lattice. And best of all, it looks good from down on the dock. Really closes off that opening, and as I'd hoped, the trim offsets the house nicely. A little later, I built this gate to shut off part of the deck so we could keep the dogs up there, and also filled in this last piece of lattice. Job complete. So this is the finished deck. We built the deck around this little sassafras tree that we like. And that's really why we have the wider section and the narrower section, so we could build around that tree without impinging on it at all. It's funny, when building the deck, it seemed really huge at first, but once we put our furniture up here, it shrunk down pretty fast. But it's big enough for what we need, holds all our furniture well, gives us a very nice view of our peaceful surroundings, good access down to the dock, and plenty of room for everything we need. We don't have an outdoor table or anything like that, but if we ever wanted to put one in, that section over there, the open part, would be a good place for that. Plenty of room to get around behind the chairs, over to the grill, and back and forth passage. So we're really happy with this deck. It's a great improvement over the old patio.